Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome once again to another Enough Already podcast. My name is Fingers Malloy. Tracy L. Connors is here as well. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Tracy.
Hi, Fingers.
Well, we've had an interesting week. We had someone on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ Enough Already Radio, say that we deserved an agonizing death. What was that? What was that again? You're
Oh, I don't remember. A slow, painful, agonizing death, I think, maybe.
right, because we posted a 2-minute video uh, highlighting our conversation about Alex Jones and his appearance on the Joe Rogan show. And we were both laughing because refresh my memory, wasn't it Alex Jones was claiming that a Chinese truck was backing up to abortion clinics and paying $500,000 per fetus for the
Yeah, pretty much. That's the gist. I think I don't know that I went into it as much as I should have, but I was trying to be quick and condense 5 hours into 2 hour, 2 minutes.
yeah, right.
And so he was kind of saying that there are these Chinese sponsored wings of hospitals where this baby milling goes on, for lack of a better term. So I had explained all of that, how they don't resuscitate babies in front of their mothers, then they resuscitate them elsewhere. They keep them alive until some truck shows up. And this is just me retelling Jones's story. I have no idea if this is true or not. I mean, we saw the videos a couple years ago that now I'm not going to remember that guy's name, Daniel something, had put
Mm-hmm.
out, going into all the different Planned Parenthood clinics and getting them on camera, saying that they are selling these organs of babies and this kind of thing. And so in recounting that story, you and I were laughing because it sounds so ridiculous. But this gentleman took that as us laughing about the murder of babies.
Well, here's the ridiculous part about that whole thing. The idea that China would have to outsource getting aborted fetuses
This is
under
true.
under their one-child policy. Estimates are somewhere around there have been 336 million abortions in China.
336 million?
Yes,
Wow.
in the past 4 decades. So clearly
Well,
there's
if
a
commies
shortage
are
of.
good at anything, it's keeping records.
That's right. So clearly there's a shortage of aborted fetuses in fetuses, feti.
I don't know.
I don't know. But uh, they have to outsource that work apparently.
Yes. But we deserve a slow, painful death for even talking about it and having the audacity to giggle
Right.
about Jones's ridiculousness in telling this story, which I find horrifying. I'm certain that you probably do as well.
Of course.
So,
So that was fun.
yeah.
But we have a lot to talk about this week. I don't know where do you want to begin, Tracy?
Oh, we were just talking about the story from New York, and this is all coming on the heels of everybody that's running for the Democrat nomination for 2020 is talking about raising taxes, and there's different variations on the wealth taxes we could potentially see. So there's a story that was on Breitbart. The headline is: the New York State auditors looking to bulldoze fleeing the state's high taxes. Now, can you imagine the audacity of these people, Fingers, that pick up and move to avoid paying high taxes? How dare they? That's not how this is all supposed to work.
Right.
And so they point out the New York State auditors are looking to stick wealthy residents fleeing the state's high taxes with a hefty bill to make up for a $2.3 billion budget deficit. And I think they're incorrect here with this line, stick wealthy residents, because they can't be residents anymore.
Right. Former residents.
Former
Unless
residents.
unless they're doing this little dance where they're still living in New York, but they're going to have a part-time residence in Florida, and then they're going to claim that they live full-time in Florida. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of because you do see some of that. They call them snowbirds.
Yes.
I guess we call them tax birds when it comes to New York.
Well, that they get into that's what you're talking about down here.
Mm-hmm.
In the article, they say, and I'm not certain who they're quoting in this. Oh, and it's CNBC. If you're a high earner in New York and you move to Florida, your chances of a residency audit are 100%, says Barry Horowitz, a partner at Waltham Smith and Brown accounting firm, who told CNBC New York has always been aggressive, but it's getting worse. So they're going to track your movements if you leave the state. So in order to get residency in Florida, you have to spend at least 6 months of the year living there. And they will go so far as to look at your credit card statements, if you have an Easy Pass, which I don't know if do you guys have those in Indiana?
No,
Do you know
don't.
toll roads?
We do have a couple of toll roads that I'm aware of, and that's in the northern part of the state, heading to Chicago, heading to Ohio, going east-west. I'm sure they probably have an Easy Pass up there, but for the most part, Indiana is toll road free.
Well, the point is that they'll track your movements via those things. So Easy Pass goes most of the way down the East Coast, and then you get into Florida, and they have something called the Sun Pass. So They can track you moving around down there to make sure you're actually there for your 6 months. They want to look at gas receipts, all this kind of garbage just to
social
make sure.
Media posts.
Yes.
Medical records, seeing where you're getting medical treatment.
Yeah. So they'll do all of this just to claw back money because that money doesn't actually belong to you. It belongs to the state of New York.
I had a flashback. It's almost like New York is run by Mayor Quimby from The Simpsons.
Okay.
I was telling you this off the air. It reminded me of an episode of The Simpsons because really everything at the end of the day relates back to an episode of The Simpsons.
Sure.
Because they've been on for, 70 years now. But there was an episode where they were filming a feature film in Springfield about Radioactive Man. And the city was bleeding it dry, just taxing the production to death. And eventually they were under so much pressure they had to shut down. And they only had $1,000 left. And Mayor Quimby steps in at the end. It's a 6-second clip. The two producers are talking about it, and then there's Mayor Quimby to kick him one last time on the way out of town.
We're shutting down production. Yeah, well, we only have $1,000 left anyway.
Oh, there's $1,000 leaving town tax.
We're shutting...
I mean, that's what it is right there. Oh, let's kick them one last time before they leave town.
Right.
But
no, it's insane.
What kills me about this is you'll find these people moving out of high-tax states. You know, you're seeing people flee Illinois for friendlier, tax-friendlier places to live like Indiana, or in California, they're flocking to Nevada and Texas, and you're seeing this in New York where people are leaving New York, to go to Florida. And then they'll go down there and they'll vote for the same idiots that'll raise taxes,
of course,
and ruin it for the people in their new state. It's crazy.
No, I have family that just they haven't started to play the game. They're considering legitimately being down in Florida for 6 months out of the year. And Pennsylvania, we have a flat state income tax. It's right about 3%. I think it's 3.07 or something bizarre. And so they could save an extra 3% if they did that. But they were terrified during the last election. You know, it was really close, and they played that whole game with the recounts ongoing, and that all of a sudden, if those people from New York and other blue states continue to go there, are they going to eventually elect people that are going to then put in a state income tax? Like, no, this can't be. We just bought a house down there. Like, just we're this close. Just saving the 3%. New York is higher than that. And California is the worst. California, I think the top marginal rate there is 13.3%. That's insane.
If I were a Texas politician running for re-election, my campaign slogan would be "Don't turn Texas into California." Honestly, I've got a friend who lives in Colorado. She's getting ready to get the hell out because she said too many people from California are moving here, and they're turning the state blue.
It's awful. Who's the baseball pitcher that everybody's been talking about? He's going to the Phillies now.
Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper. Did you see the stories everywhere about him? And one of the reasons he picked Philadelphia seems to be the Pennsylvania state tax. Is 3%.
Makes sense.
He had offers from, I think it was the Giants, the Dodgers, and maybe even the Yankees. And his agent said to them, you guys have to come up with more money than Pennsylvania would, because he's going to get to keep more if he goes to Pennsylvania. It needs to be a net gain, like,
right.
Why would you lose out on tax money?
The weird thing too is, and I may be wrong on this, but I feel like I read something several years ago that these athletes, when they travel,
yes,
if say Bryce Harper plays for the Phillies and they have a 3-game series in Florida against the Marlins, that his income is taxed based on the Florida tax rate and not the Pennsylvania tax rate.
I know that's true for golfers, because I think that was a Phil Mickelson story a couple of years ago that came up, but I'm not sure if it's true for baseball players. It would make some sense. I mean, when I worked on different film productions, I did some where we shot in different states, and I had to pay those state taxes. So I did like 3 days of shooting in New York for a film that shot the majority of the time in Pennsylvania, but I had to pay the state of New York for the privilege of working in that state.
That's so ridiculous because, look, and not that I'm trying to turn someone who makes that kind of money into a sympathetic figure, but not everyone who plays professional baseball makes Bryce Harper money.
Right.
There's a league minimum, and you got to pay an accountant to figure out, who gets what as far as, the state taxes goes. That's crazy.
Well, it's just everybody gets a piece, right?
Right.
It gets to be grotesque. So.
Yes.
But with that in mind, we also wanted to briefly talk about this great NPR piece that I found on the wealth tax tip about how the wealth tax has been tried in Europe. And we all know we'll grow sick and tired of hearing about how wonderful the European economies are. And, don't you know, that's democratic socialism, of course.
Right.
So the European countries, a lot of them tried to do this wealth tax nonsense. So I love this. And this is NPR, of all places. They say the subheading under all of this, the heading is, if a wealth tax is such a good idea, why did Europe kill theirs? Fair question. And I don't know how somebody got away with putting this up on NPR.
Probably
so
been fired.
Yeah, right. They talk about Elizabeth Warren, and her idea for taxing the wealthy. And so then they get into the European flop. Say, normally progressives like to point to Europe for policy success. Not this time. The experiment with wealth tax in Europe was a failure in many countries. France's wealth tax contributed to the exodus of an estimated 42,000 millionaires between 2000 and 2012. 42,000 millionaires. So they said only last year, French President Emmanuel Macron, he killed it. I didn't see anywhere where they say how much they lost out on by chasing these 42,000 millionaires. Who knew France even had 42,000 millionaires? How many are left aside from Macron and his buddies?
Well, you see what's going on in Paris, and you must really love France to stay there if you're a millionaire.
Right.
If you have the means to get out. But what I found interesting about that piece is, this is an Elizabeth Warren idea that she's throwing out there, for her campaign, and the person I believe that is advising her is saying things like, well, we'll be better at it than the Europeans when it comes to enforcing it, and we're going to make sure if someone, say, leaves the United States and sets their residency in the Caribbean, we're just going to take 40% of what they have.
Yeah, exit tax.
Yeah, an exit tax.
It's a toll.
What's sad to me is I don't want to believe that that's the kind of campaign promise that would play in America, but I fear that that's the kind of thing that a lot of Americans would get behind. And how ridiculously scary is that you're allowing a government to be so powerful that, we're just gonna take 40% of your shit when you leave.
Yeah.
Screw you. Nothing you can do about it.
No, it's like divorcing the state. They're entitled to 40% of everything you got.
And a part of that piece too talks about how they're going to ramp up enforcement at the IRS and hire a bunch of new agents. And I don't know about you, but when I think of a government agency that really needs more power and more bureaucrats in it, it's the IRS, Tracy.
Oh,
that's
certainly.
not scary.
No, they've never given us any reason to doubt them and think that they're just by the book, straight down the line. They'll enforce these things regardless of party affiliation or anything like that.
Well, how much of this do you think plays?
I think a fair amount plays.
It's scary.
You've got Bernie Sanders in second place right now. And I would imagine he believes the same thing that she does about this. And he's in second place to a hypothetical Biden. So if Biden doesn't run, which I don't know that I can't imagine that he won't.
Yeah, I thought I read something where he was going to announce here
in
fairly
April,
soon that he's going to run.
Supposedly, he's going to make his announcement in April. But then I'm reading other stuff that says raising money is going to be a big problem for him because he's from the old school. He's from the old school where they raise high dollars amounts instead of these little online donations like Bernie's been able to do really successfully and stuff like this. So they think the entire landscape has changed and that's the way you have to go. And I do know that he'll probably get into the debates based off of his polling numbers. But one of the other ways that they're narrowing down who can be on the debate stage for the Democrats is by number of small donors. I think you have to hit 5,000 or 6,000 small donors in order to make the debate stage.
Wow.
But in the article that I read about it, and now I wish I remembered where it was, they were saying he was off in St. Croix with his wife, this is Biden, discussing how they were going to raise money. I'm like, how out of touch is this? They're off at one of their favorite family getaway spots, St. Croix, worried about how they're going to raise billions of dollars.
I wonder, look, he's going to be the centrist candidate, considered the centrist candidate.
Right.
And it makes you wonder how much old Democrat money that the people who are scared of the AOCs of the world, the AOCs of the party, if Biden is going to be the person that they're going to want to rally behind as someone who's not going to drag the party way to the left. Which you look at it, what's going on right now, and they're going to drag Joe way to the left.
Yeah.
Everyone who has run right now, they're trying to out lefty each other. This Elizabeth Warren wealth tax proposals out there. I mean, Bernie threw a lot of this stuff out there 4 years ago when he was running. Now you've got this Green New Deal, which, as far as I've seen, every Democratic candidate who has announced so far, they're all behind it, are they not?
I think so. I can't think of a single one that hasn't fully endorsed it.
And now you're seeing candidates talk about reparations.
Mm-hmm. I saw Julian Castro this morning on one of the Sunday shows. They were showing clips of him calling out Bernie Sanders for not going far enough. He said, Bernie Sanders says you can write people a check to pay for their college. You can write people a check to pay for Medicare for all. Well, why can't we just write everybody a check for reparations?
No, I mean, it's a good question, Tracy.
I agree.
I think every Democratic candidate who's running for president should answer that question.
Yes. Well, and it's also, I mean, when do these checks stop? At what point?
When do they start bouncing?
Right. It's got to be soon. And I mean, it's just turning into the Oprah. You get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. Everybody's getting a check. But which is that guy Andy Yang's position, right? Mm-hmm. Mr. Universal Basic Income. And I think you said you saw some of his appearance. Was it on Rogan, or you just saw him talk somewhere else?
No, it was on Rogan. And what amazed me about, and maybe this is what's going to start happening as Gen Xers, more and more Gen Xers and people who are younger eventually start running for president, is how he carries himself and how he speaks. on Rogan, every third word was like. Like, shouldn't like everyone like get a basic income? Like, wouldn't that be like fair? Likety like. Uh, but he was on Rogan talking about that, and I thought to myself, this guy's running for president. Is this the wave of the future?
Yeah, but you and I are Gen Xers. We don't say like every other word. At least I don't think so.
I do sometimes, and I have to catch myself.
But you're not exaggerating. What your impression just then was exactly what he sounded like on Rogan's show. It was cringeworthy, and I had to stop listening to him. I'm like, I can't take you seriously. First of all, you're saying you're going to give everybody a check for $1,000, and then you're peppering every sentence with 15 to 20 likes.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question about the universal basic income, because
Okay.
I have seen more than one person say that there are factions of the libertarian movement embracing universal basic income.
That's
and
true.
you are much more in tune with that community than I am. It is true that there are libertarians who are embracing this.
Yep. I think it was on Tom Woods' show. He hosted a debate about it between two different libertarians. And I get the thinking seems to be mostly along the lines of what Andy Yang is talking about. I think even Tucker Carlson has said that we might need to consider a universal basic income. And it's because of a misapprehension these people have that the machines are coming and the machines are taking all of our jobs. And it's going to happen like this, which is so impractical. It's ridiculous. Like, nobody understands how long it takes to actually produce all of these machines.
No, they just pop up overnight in the universal robot generator that we all have in every town. So I'm expecting within 3 days, all of our jobs are going to be replaced by robots.
Of course. But it's a little bit hysterical. Nothing happens that fast. You have to make every one of these robots. And so there was another article that I read this week where somebody was predicting what the future was going to look like, which I'm always highly suspect about. And it said by 2050, there will be 9 billion robots on the planet. And I think, okay, how are these going to get produced? How are you going to produce 9 billion robots in around 30 years? This is just insane. And
they're produced by other robots. They reproduce, Tracy.
At a certain point, yes, I figured that. But anyway, yeah. So this is the craziness that's coming along. It's like when cars came about, everybody, what's going to happen to the buggy drivers and the people that make the horse whips and all these kind of things? These things get slowly phased in and out.
Well,
so there is a disruption, but it's not a huge disruption.
The autonomous vehicle movement.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing people talk about that and how in the not too distant future we aren't going to need truck drivers anymore because semis will drive themselves. And
potentially.
But they act like it is around the corner. And maybe if you're looking at it long term, it will be in a short period of time. But you've already seen automotive manufacturers try to roll out self-driving vehicles in places like San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
And pedestrians have been killed.
I think that happened once, right?
At least once that I can think of off the top of my head. A woman was walking her dog. But look, maybe there is a demand for this, but I don't know about you, Tracy. Even if they claim that they've perfected this technology, say in 5 years, I'm not going to be excited about jumping into a Lyft or an Uber that just pulls up at my front door and no one's driving it.
Really?
Absolutely not.
Huh.
I have to believe that they're going to be able to guide this with GPS, satellites, computer sensors, and it's all going to seamlessly work, and all the time. And there's not going to be any malfunction at all. No, thank you. I have no interest in it. And the other thing too is I get a sense. Forget about the Uber Lyft aspect of this. I can see where there is a market for this because millennials just don't care about cars the way previous generations care about cars.
Right.
you talk to baby boomers, especially in the Midwest. You go to classic car shows, and it's all boomers for the most part. You'll get some younger people, but they have a love affair for automobiles. And part of that too is, back when they were growing up, cars had character to them. There was something special about a vehicle and how it looked. And today it's like they're just boxes, with wheels. It's not what it used to be in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But millennials don't care about cars like previous generations, so maybe they don't care about owning their own vehicle or driving a vehicle. That used to be really kids would, when they were 16 years old, were dying to get their driver's licenses, to be able to get behind the wheel and drive, because it was seen as fun and exciting, and there's a sense of independence by getting in your car and driving. And if you had a manual transmission, there was something about being a part of the vehicle as you were driving it. And now I just don't think younger people are looking at cars that way, and you're seeing kids waiting until they're sometimes in college before they get their driver's licenses, which is really bizarre to me. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was 15, I was peppering my parents every day. Can I go get driver's training? Can I go to driver's training? Can I get driver's training? And there was no way. They took me down to get my driver's license maybe 2 weeks after I turned 16. And I was upset that it took 2 weeks after I turned 16 before I got my driver's license. I mean, were you the same way? Were you chomping at the bit to be able to start driving?
Absolutely. But I can tell you that my brother, who's 8 years younger than me, didn't care.
Really?
No, I don't even think so in Pennsylvania, you can get your license at 16. Is that the same in Indiana?
Yes.
Okay. And you can get your permit a little bit before that, I think, if I remember correctly. I don't think he got that until he was 17. And
wow.
Now he lives in New York and doesn't have a car. So I can understand people in his position that live in a city just loving that autonomous vehicle thing. You don't even have to talk about like Uber or Lyft, but there are already those car rentals like Zipcar or whatever, where you can belong to a club and then you can just borrow a car whenever you want. It's like those commie bikes that they have in the cities.
Yeah.
Well, they're always red. That's why I think they're the communal bikes. So think about something like that, and if you live in somewhere like Manhattan or Los Angeles, for example, paying for parking is a bitch. And I can't imagine what insurance rates are like. So, yeah, it's a perfect solution for that type of living situation.
But again, I'm supposed to trust that technology. I have only been to Manhattan a few times, and I've never driven in Manhattan. But I have taken many an Uber or Lyft in Manhattan, and I don't know how people drive there. And it's not just the traffic. The pedestrians are batshit crazy.
Yeah. I won't drive in the city there.
And I'm supposed to expect that this car with the GPS and all the sensors will be able to, pick up a pedestrian that just doesn't seem to care and just walking in the middle of the street. And the other thing that I find interesting about this, and I freely admit I have not done my research when it comes to this, but when you start seeing accidents, and it is because there was a breakdown in the technology in these autonomous vehicles, who will be held responsible? Who will be sued? Will it be the vehicle owner, or will it be the manufacturer? I see huge problems for Tesla or General Motors if they don't get this ironed out in the courts in the next few years. Who will be held responsible if there is a technological breakdown and people get killed? Will it be the owner of the vehicle, or will it be the manufacturer?
I don't know, and that's why I don't know that I agree with your fear on this. I think it's a little bit unfounded, because I don't think they'll let these cars on the road until all of this stuff is ironed out. The regulatory state is coming for this.
But as we've seen on other devices like iPhones, stuff happens. There's a glitch.
Yeah.
And say if that glitch kills 250 people next month.
Right. But the argument is then that there are something like 40,000 deaths every year driving deaths. So the argument would be if this can reduce that by a significant number, then it's a trade-off, right? And we'll actually have to have that discussion. So autonomous vehicles maybe will kill 1,000 people a year, 2,000 people a year. I mean, I don't know where the technology will be when they finally become the dominant vehicles. And then also, well, that's, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
But I feel much more comfortable if I have to take a trip. I would rather drive, even if it's 8 hours away versus flying, even though air travel is much safer than getting behind the wheel and traveling, you know, via automobile. But the idea that you're in control, there's something about that makes it feel safer.
I totally understand that, and I agree. I have the same kind of deal. I like being in control, but I will fly if it's an 8-hour drive.
Oh, you will? I won't.
Yeah. No.
I mean, the way I look at it, I live 45 minutes away from the airport. Okay, so if I have to leave, say, an hour to get to the airport by the time you park and get on the shuttle, and you got to be there an hour and a half, early for your flight, that's 2.5 hours, and then you get on the plane. Who knows? It might be delayed. It may take you 6 or 7 hours to get there anyway. I may as well just drive.
Well, I don't know about that. It doesn't balance out to 8, does it?
That's close enough.
I guess.
And then you don't have to worry about shenanigans. Did you tell the story a few weeks ago about your airplane experience where you thought someone was
on my freak out?
Yeah.
my total irrational fear about on the plane. Yes. So sometimes I get a little bit paranoid. I just like to pay attention to what's going on around me. All right. So when I'm in a restaurant, I'm going to sit facing at least one door. Ideally, if there's two, I'm going to be facing both of them, my back against a wall, that kind of thing. So on a plane, I usually pay attention to people, and I will do ridiculous stuff. Like I don't always wear a belt, but when I'm on a plane, I'll wear a belt. Why is that? So I can take it off and smack you with it, and I don't have to get that close to you. These are the things that I think about. So I'm flying, and I was flying from Philly to Orlando, and I'm on one of those huge planes. It's probably going from Orlando to Europe. So it's 2 seats to my right. I'm in the center block, which I think there's 4 seats across there, and then there's 2 on the other. So I'm on the aisle, but in the middle. And there's a gentleman sitting across the aisle from me. And he's, I take notice of people. So he's wearing like a T-shirt, and then I think like, basketball shorts or something, like mesh shorts.
Okay, so he wasn't wearing a belt that he could take off and smack someone with.
No.
Okay.
And he was wearing a brand new Phillies hat. Mm-hmm. Like, saw the little sticker on it and everything like this. And he looked to be about my age. And he had one of those bags that you get that are a little bit nicer than a regular shopping bag. They kind of have drawstrings that you can then wear as a backpack.
Okay.
So he had that with him. And I'm always suspect of people, and I remember when I told you this story, you're like, well, I don't bring stuff on the plane. I'm like, I don't know. It's like this tiny little bag that he has, and there's nothing to entertain him really for the course of the flight.
Well, that's suspicious too.
Unless it's a phone.
Okay.
He has his phone. And, but at one point, and I can't remember the sequence of events, so I don't know if this happened before or after what I'm about to tell you happened, but they had the TVs in the back of the seats, and they make this announcement, if you want the headsets, we have headsets, but regular headsets should work. You just plug it in to the armrest. So this guy can't figure out how to plug his headset into the armrest. He starts putting it in a USB port. I'm like, how are you? He's either a millennial or a Gen Xer, so you've been around these inputs as long as they've existed.
Right.
And he's all like, this is a little bit weird. Who does this? So I'm already kind of paying attention to him. He gets up and he goes to the bathroom, and he takes that little bag with him. I thought, what kind of man takes a bag to the bathroom?
Listen, I can't tell you how many times I've been on an airplane, and it's been a 2-hour flight where I would go back there and shave. Because that's what you do on a plane.
Yeah.
Clean
You're allowed
shaven.
on with razors, right?
I don't know if you are anymore.
I don't know. I think about it because I pack my toiletry bag, and sometimes I've gone on, like an overnight, and so you just take the, one little bag.
Maybe a disposable razor you're allowed to bring on there, but not like a razor blade. I don't know if you're allowed to take like a replacement razor blade or a straight edge,
Right. Yeah.
But no, I'm sure, you take your beard trimmer, and I'm sure that's all he was doing, Tracy.
Of course.
Tidying up. There's
So
nothing more pleasant than to spend 15 minutes in an airplane bathroom tidying up.
Right. So I'm on alert because he's taken his bag. I'm like, this is a little bit strange. So then while he's in the bathroom, there's all this hubbub and commotion and like the dinging that normally goes off when they're somebody calling for the flight attendant. And he comes back from the bathroom, and there's like the entire, well, not the entire, because there were probably like 10 or 11 flight attendants on this flight because it's so huge. There are two of them like waiting for him when he comes back, and they're like, were you smoking in the bathroom? Because you set off the smoke detector. I guess when the smoke detector gets set off, I've never been on a flight where this happens. It dings like as if somebody's calling for help or a drink or whatever. So it's the same dinging. It's not like a smoke detector noise. So he's, no, I wasn't. I definitely wasn't. And I could smell him. Like he was, right here. No. And I smoked for a really long time, and I know how, like if you're a smoker, you can't smell it on you. So I could see him thinking like, oh, I'm slick, I totally smoked, and nobody's going to know. Like I just put a little mouthwash in, and that's what the bag was for. Right. So he denies this. Multiple people come up to him and ask about it and say like, well, it definitely got set off and all of this. So I notice in all this commotion, there's no bag. He came back from the bathroom without a bag. Like, what the hell? What's going on? And I'm like, maybe he was vaping. I don't know, because I've been known to do that. Don't tell anybody that I've been known to do that in the bathrooms. And the way that smoke detectors work, as far as I know, is that there's a sensor. There's an eye in there. And if it gets blocked by something, that's when it goes off. It's not sitting there sniffing for smoke. It's like it's possible that he's stupid and took a big old huff off his e-cig and then blew it out and set the damn thing off, and then you wouldn't smell anything. But I'm obsessed with where the hell is the bag.
Of course.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom now and see if I can get somebody's attention.
You're going to get all Hardy Boys.
Right.
That's what you're going to do.
And then I get up to go to the bathroom, and it's such a giant plane that there's two of them right across from each other. So I'm like, well, I don't know which one he went in because I wasn't being that creepy about what he was doing. So I pick one, go in, and I'm looking around, and I don't see the bag anywhere. I'm like, okay, I don't know. I don't know what went on. But then I just start getting in my head like, this is weird. Where's the damn bag? I have to tell somebody what the hell. At least, I saw something. I'm going to say something because I don't want to be sitting here all of a sudden kablooey. And then I'm like, in the, millisecond that I have to think about it, be like, ugh, I totally should have told somebody. So,
well, but what were you thinking was going to happen? That one of the flight attendants was going to turn into MacGyver and was going to be able to disable the bag bomb that this guy had?
I thought they would go check it out at the very least.
Okay. At least your mind would be clear saying, well, at the very least, I told somebody about the bag bomb before it blew up.
And then I would think that they would go and do something about it. I'm not going to get up and just start. I already checked the one bathroom. Now it looks weird if I'm jumping in the other one. And there could be somebody that's as paranoid as I am that's watching me do all this.
What's with this weird chick running around doing bathroom checks?
Right. And I'm suspicious of this guy. So he's sitting right next to me. So I can't call the flight attendant over to be like, so I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So they're doing the drink service. So I decide I'm going to write a note in the notes on my phone. And I explain all of this. I type it all out. I'm like, okay, this guy went to the bathroom. He's the one that set off the smoke. When he went, he had a bag. When he came back, he didn't. So they're there, and it's two ladies that are moving this cart.
Mhm.
So one of them that's nearer to me, I hand her my phone.
Right.
And I'm like, read that, trying to be as subtle as possible because now the drink cart is blocking me from him. Like, he can't see me. And so she reads it and she's like, oh, goodness. And she's just like, oh, you have to look at this. Like Cheryl, or whatever, the lady on the other side of the cart saying, so now that lady's right even with this guy.
And could probably, if he turns around and looks, he could probably read what's on your phone.
Potentially. I made it big because I'm like, oh, these ladies are older. I don't want to have to be like, oh, I don't have my glasses. Can you just read it to me? So then the lady at the other side of the cart reads it and she's like, I got to go show this to somebody. So she walks off with my phone. And now I'm like, okay, you guys are not subtle in the least. Like, okay. This is cool. I'm totally exposed now. If this guy
and can
wants
I be
to go
honest
nuts.
with you?
Yes.
If I'm watching all this go down,
Mm-hmm.
and I see you hand your phone off to a flight attendant, and they freak out with what they're reading, I'm thinking that, okay, this woman handed them a phone with a note that says, I have a bomb. That's what I'm thinking. My suspicion is now this chick is trying to hijack the plane.
Potentially.
And this is why I drive instead of flying.
Right.
Shit like this.
No, but thankfully I was sitting next to like an 8-year-old boy, so he was paying no attention to any of this. He found the games on the console.
Okay.
So that woman disappears with my phone. She comes back a couple minutes later, and they continue to do the drink service. Mm-hmm. And then a third flight attendant that I haven't spoken to yet, she comes, crouches next to me. So between he and I now, and I'm going to tell you again, he's 3 feet from me. Mm-hmm. She asked me to repeat everything that I had written down in the thing. And I'm like, yep, that's what I saw. I don't know. I thought it was weird. That's why I wanted to say something, whatever. She's like, well, thank you. And that's the last I hear from the flight crew about it. Mm-hmm. Then, to make me feel like the ultimate jerk of all jerks, this little girl comes up the aisle and leans over to the guy who I've now accused of being a bathroom bomber, for all intents and purposes, without calling him such. Daddy! Hey, Daddy! I'm like, oh no. So his family's on the flight. He's just not sitting with them. Perhaps he didn't, perhaps he left the bag with them. Who knows? But I've now turned this into this whole thing where, yes.
Which was filled with granola bars and fruit snacks.
Right.
He turned it into an international incident.
Almost. But yes. I still think I did the right thing, damn it.
You did do the right thing. They got to the the bottom of the Pop-Tart bag incident. But no, I would have done the same thing. And look, again, it's why I'll drive. I try to do I had to fly to Vegas, or not Vegas, DC for CPAC a couple of weeks ago, and I hated every minute of it. Like, I just said like. By the way, God. I flew Southwest to Baltimore, and then I took a super shuttle from Baltimore into National Harbor. Well,
what's a super shuttle? Is that a bus?
Super shuttle is a shuttle service that you share a van with other people who are going to, a similar area of the city. And so instead of spending $70 on an Uber, I spent $40, and I had to share a van with a bunch of strangers. Okay. And the vans usually smell, it's a Ford Transport van, and it usually smells like peas, ass, and some sort of cherry air freshener.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, it smells like a bowling shoe. So I'm flying via Southwest, and usually I like there are positives and negatives to flying Southwest. One, the positive is your luggage is free for the first 2 bags.
Yep.
Your checked luggage, which is nice. What's not nice is you have to check in 24 hours prior to your flight, and then you get an assignment, your boarding assignment, They don't assign seats, and then they
But you
they
can pay
herd you in
$5
cattle.
extra to get into the A group,
It's
right?
$15.
Oh, they upped it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I'm flying to Baltimore via Southwest. Well, in the past few weeks, Southwest Airlines has made the news because they've had an above normal amount of planes that have been grounded due to mechanical issues, and they're having an issue with their mechanics union over how they are going to address fixing these planes. And the mechanics union feels pressured to certify planes that maybe aren't ready to fly yet. So there's this whole thing, and it's been being played out in the media. And of course, this all broke after I bought my Southwest Airlines ticket to fly to Baltimore.
Of course.
So we're getting ready to we board the plane, and we're heading to the runway, and then the plane stops. And we're sitting there, and then the pilot gets on the intercom and says, ladies and gentlemen, we're having a problem with one of our engine generators. It's not working. We have mechanics looking at it right now. I was like, oh, great. Generator on one of the few engines we have. I think there were only 2 engines on this plane. The generator isn't working. So naturally, I had to my Google machine to find out how many generators there are on this particular plane. And apparently there are 3. And if one craps out, there's a backup generator. And if that craps out, then you're running on battery and all this crap. And now my mind is racing over why did I decide to fly Southwest? And look what happens when I fly. Like, it's only a 10-hour drive to Washington, D.C. Why didn't I drive? And so after about 20 minutes, the pilot gets back on. I see the pilot get outside. We go back to the gate. He gets outside, and he goes outside, and he's on the ground looking at the engine with the mechanic.
Okay.
This isn't good. None of this is good.
No.
So we ended up leaving 45 minutes late.
Oof.
So again, I got there 90 minutes early. It took me an hour. That's 2.5 hours. Oh, and then, by the way, on a side note, I took an Uber to the airport.
Okay.
And this crazy lady who was my Uber driver told me her entire life story in 45 minutes. So
was
the
it
whole
a good
trip.
life story, or
No, it's every problem from my mom just died, and my dad died when I was young, and I've got lupus, and my lupus has diabetes, and you name the problem, she had it, and I got to hear about it at 5 o'clock in the morning on the way to the airport, and I didn't ask. And I made the mistake of not doing my typical trick, which
putting
I'm sure you
headphones
probably
in?
Yes, put the earbuds in. I usually use that exclusively on the plane. I should start using it in Uber.
Just
now.
use it all the time.
Yep. But
Whenever you don't want to talk to people, just do that.
Yeah. So that was my unpleasant air travel experience. It wasn't quite up to your level of Pop-Tart bomber, but
Okay.
still, this poor guy was just probably being a good dad, running snacks back to his
Could have
to
been.
his little
When he was
daughter.
up to something in the bathroom, damn it. I've never been on a plane where somebody set off the smoke alarm in the bathroom.
I had no idea that, I used to vape. You're vaping right now, and people who are watching, that was a healthy drag right there of your vape pen. I've noticed if you're just trying to get by on your vape pen, you don't need that much of a drag coming off of it.
No, I will show if I just hold my breath while you keep talking, it'll dissipate.
Right. So I would think if you were the type of person, I know you wouldn't do that, even though you just admitted to it earlier. But if you were going to go to the bathroom to vape, I'm shocked, unless you're almost trying to set off the alarm, that you should be able to get away with doing that in the plane without setting anything off.
I do it in my seat.
Yeah, look at you. There's nothing going on right now, at least on camera. I can't see anything that you didn't blow out a bunch of vapor
Nope.
when you exhaled.
Nope.
If you do it right, unless maybe he had a few drinks before he
Could have been.
got on the plane.
I don't know. He was a good dad, though.
See, you should feel
So
guilty.
I don't know.
You should feel
I know.
terrible.
I do. No, I really don't. He didn't get in any trouble. I didn't get in any trouble. They weren't like, hey, crazy lady, when I was getting off the plane. Like, you gave us all heart attacks. Thanks a lot. I just wanted to know if they found the damn bag. Because it's not like the kid came up with the bag. So where did the bag go? And did you know you can open the vanities in bathrooms on airplanes?
Why would you want to? Why would you want to touch anything unnecessarily in an airplane?
I was looking for the damn bag.
What was in the vanity?
Nothing.
What was in the vanity?
Nothing. I think extra toilet paper was maybe in there. But there was also another cabinet down lower. There was extra toilet paper somewhere in there.
Oh God.
I know.
I can't imagine having to use the bathroom in an airplane bathroom and having to sit down on the seat. You poor ladies. You have to get good at squatting.
No, you don't. I'm not one of those people that believes you can get Cuban super AIDS from a toilet seat. The squatters are what leave all the pee all over the place. You've never had to look at that horror show. I can't tell you how many times I walk into a stall and turn around and walk back out. And there was one time when I just lost it. I think I was at a movie theater. I'm like, what kind of animals are in this bathroom? Like, if you're going to do that and pee all over the seat, just clean up after yourself. Because it's disgusting. I don't want to look at it.
It's not like you're cleaning it with your bare hand.
Right.
Take some toilet paper and dab. That's all. It's not much to ask.
No. Animals.
Indeed. What else do you have? What else do you want to talk about?
What else we got going on here? Let me think about this. So we can talk about our friend Jussie Smollett.
Boy, that story disappeared in a hurry. It went from dominating the headlines to, once you found out that it was a hoax, nothing. Until now you hear that he's been indicted on 16 counts.
Yes.
Is it 16 felony counts?
16. I believe there's 16 felonies. Let's see.
Wow.
If it says that. So, no,
he may
you're
spend
right.
30 days in jail.
It's more than that. So this is from the Chicago Tribune. Jussie Smollett indicted on 16 counts over allegedly phony claims of racist, homophobic attack. So
isn't it nice? Isn't it nice that you're seeing allegedly?
Yes.
Now, when it comes to this story.
No, that is
headlines.
nice.
That's nice.
A fair point, fingers.
Thank you.
The article written by Megan, I can't pronounce your last name, Crepeau, perhaps?
I believe that's pronounced Buttafuoco.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So a Cook County grand jury has indicted Empire actor Jussie Smollett on 16 counts of disorderly conduct for allegedly lying to police about being the victim of a racist and homophobic attack. Now, can we pause for a second? Did you realize that lying to cops counts as disorderly conduct?
That's a new one for me.
I always thought that's like when you get drunk and yell at them. Or do you yell at anybody? You know, like if you're in a bar fight or something and it doesn't escalate to physical violence. It's just, a lot of shouting. That's disorderly conduct.
Has anything come out about that night as far as whether he was under the influence of anything?
No. And I don't know that they would have drug tested him or not. I mean, he did go to the hospital, but he's supposed to be the victim here, so I don't know.
But I mean, if they
that
smelled alcohol on his breath or something, then they could probably double back and say, well, we did smell alcohol on his breath. So
maybe.
I
don't know what
claims under the influence. Well, if he's under the influence of alcohol and he's making these claims, I can't figure out why this would be disorderly conduct, but this may surprise you. My law experience is basically just watching old Matlock episodes. So
no, but they're saying that the disorderly conduct is the lying. It's not a drunken disorderly. It's this is
Just
this
disorder.
lying falls under this disorderly conduct standard. So and you're right. I had completely forgotten about all of this until I saw his lawyer, Mark Garagos. I was watching something that I had DVR'd over the weekend, and when I went to watch the next episode, it cuts back to live TV for a second, and I had it on CNN, and there's Mark Garagos talking to Anderson Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were talking about this. And Garagos, who that name sounds so familiar, and I didn't Google him to see who else he's defended over the years. But Garagos was so adamant that, like, this is unprecedented, that he's been charged with 16, felony counts of disorderly conduct. And how they arrive at that number is he gave his statement to 2 different officers. And there are 8 lies in the statement. So he's getting dinged for lying to officer number 1 and officer number 2. So Garagos is just like losing his mind and being like, this is unprecedented, which I have nothing to back that up. I didn't go look and see. Like, I don't even know how you find that out. Has anybody else ever been charged with lying, multiple counts of telling the same lies? Which maybe there's some credibility to that, but they threw the book at him. And then Garagos is just, I took all these friggin' notes. I took like a page of notes on Garagos while he's talking, because I was just like, holy crap, because Anderson Cooper is kind of like, come on, dude, this is so ridiculous. Like, you're still standing by this story. I mean, and like, that's what he has to do, right? He's the guy's lawyer, so he's not going to be like, yeah, no, he's full of crap.
Full of shit.
And he paid these 2 guys to beat him up. And CNN did preface bringing on Garagos by showing the surveillance video of the 2 brothers buying like a red hat in one video, and then they're buying the other supplies for this.
The rope.
Right. So what I gathered from this interview was that there's absolutely no mention of the letter, which I thought was interesting, in the indictment. So that's not part of the list of lies. I guess he didn't bring that into it with that. And so Garagos said that's being investigated by, I guess, the FBI, because it's a federal crime, sending stuff through the mail.
Sending stuff through the mail, yes.
So that could still drop.
Well, where do they film Empire?
In Chicago, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he's still maintaining his innocence. The Chicago Police Department has launched an internal investigation to figure out where all the leaks came from during the course of this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh my God. It was the only way to really protect their reputation at the time.
Right.
And say, we're doing stuff and we're following up on all of this. So, let me think about it. Oh, my favorite line from Garagos, he referred to the way that Jussie was treated as a media gangbang. It's like, okay. And one of the other things that Garagos is really trying to hang his hat on is that, when the superintendent of police came out and gave his statement about all of this, he posited the motive was that Jussie wanted more money from the show. And now he's saying, Garagos, the attorney, is saying, well, they never interviewed anybody from the show to corroborate that idea. And I'm like, this has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not he committed this crime.
Right.
Whether he's guilty or not. Has nothing to do with what somebody alleged is the motive. We could make up stuff all day, reasons why he did this. So, but it doesn't change the fact of what happened.
We need to understand his
state of mind.
Yeah, his state of mind. Going into the crime. What difference does that make? He did it allegedly.
Right, and that's why I thought, he's trying to deflect.
Right.
Like, this is where he's going with this. But I did. He also, not only did he call it a gangbang, he called it a media lynching. But Anderson Cooper pointed out, Jussie was very adamant when he was in that interview with Robin Roberts, I believe,
yes,
from Good Morning America,
right.
that the 2 guys that were on camera, that on the surveillance video, were the guys that did it. He was 100% sure. So Anderson Cooper says, well, okay, we've now established that the 2 guys that are on the camera and the guys that beat him up are these guys that he knows. So how is it that he didn't recognize them at the time of the attack? Can you explain that? These are guys that he and Garagos is still maintaining he was paying them not to beat him up, but for training. It was all on the up and up, all above board. They were his personal trainers. That's what the payment was for. Okay, so your personal trainer beats you up on the street in the middle of the night and you don't recognize him. And not only do you not recognize him, but you then change his race in your mind. It's a white dude. 2 white guys. I mean, it's unbelievable.
What did he say? What was it? This is MAGA country, bitch, or something like that?
No,
what
he didn't. There was no bitch at the end, but it was just you added
bitch?
that, right?
Oh,
yeah, no.
Apologize.
No, they called him a racial slur and a homophobic slur, and then said this is MAGA country.
Okay.
So, and I haven't heard anything. One of the initial reports, and I know we've talked about it a couple times, was that Jussie was on the phone with his manager when this happened, and that the manager corroborated that he had heard these things being said.
So how does is the manager going to be charged with anything, or are we certain that those words were actually heard over the phone? There are phone records, and there's a way to back up that the manager actually heard something.
Well, think about the lengths that they went to, right? They're buying the red hat. Mm-hmm. They're getting the rope. They're getting the bleach or whatever. We still don't know for sure what this substance was that was thrown on him. But I could see this. Like, he apparently was also trying to do it in front of cameras so that it would be caught, so there would be video evidence. But the camera was turned in the wrong direction. So he's not the brightest, obviously. But I could believe that he would have those guys yell those things and have the manager on the phone as a witness.
Right.
So this is, like I said, he scripted this whole thing.
Well, I hope he fires them.
Scripts. You hope he fires the trainers?
Yes, I hope he fires them. I hope he doesn't give them a second chance. Good Lord.
That's fair enough. Oh, man. Those guys certainly don't deserve it.
No, and of course, have they been charged with anything yet?
No, and that was something else that Garagos said. Like, well, if they are involved in this, then they should be charged as accessories and all that kind of stuff, which, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that all works. I guess they could be charged with assault, but then their defense is just, well, he paid us to beat him up, so he agreed to this, but I don't know. Can you consent to being assaulted?
Maybe on Berkeley's campus you can.
Well, I mean, there are S&M clubs and stuff like this. I don't know what the waiver situation is.
I don't know
what one of those.
Well, listen, maybe they won't be charged with a crime if they were completely honest with authorities from the very beginning. I mean, they were
weren't,
interviewed.
though. They said, yeah, they held them for a couple days before they sang at the last minute. So,
I mean, disorderly conduct for lying to police.
Yeah.
That they should be charged with that, I would think. But again, I don't know how that helps your client by doing a whataboutism.
Right.
What about the people my client hired to beat him up? Why aren't they being charged with anything?
Oh, I don't know, Fingers.
It's a bizarre story. But it completely dropped off the mainstream media's radar. In fact, you brought that story to my attention, and I did see it a little earlier this week, but there wasn't widespread coverage of this like there was when he first claimed to get his ass kicked. So, I mean, even that story that you were reading from, wasn't that a British paper?
No, that was the Chicago Tribune.
It was Chicago Tribune.
But it was reported in a bunch of American media over the weekend, because I think these indictments came down Friday evening. So there was plenty of coverage. I just went Chicago Tribune because I didn't want to give MSNBC or CNN or anybody else.
Well, look, let's face it. The reason why we know so much about the story is because it was local journalists in Chicago who were doing the digging. So
yes. Yeah, I'd rather go to a Chicago source on this.
Right.
All right, and speaking of people that could potentially be going to jail.
Uh-oh.
This is a fun one. So this started maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I want to say, with people picking around in AOC's campaign filings and looking at the incoming money and the outgoing money. So there was the story about Riley Roberts, her boyfriend, getting some money from this PAC that her campaign manager was running. And now the story just keeps getting more and more interesting and more shady, in my opinion. So there was plenty of coverage of it this week. I think the Washington Examiner had the first story, which with the headline, and this is Alana Goodman. AOC's chief of staff ran a $1 million slush fund by diverting campaign cash to his own companies. And now, fingers, when I was doing some research on this, you'll love this. There is actually a technical term called a scam pack.
I did see that in the piece. I got really excited.
Yeah. It's like, oh, look, we were way ahead of our time, or we just were totally unaware of the actual rules.
I'll have to see how much our URL is worth now.
Well, I thought we could post all these stories about this and follow the breaking news on these developments. So from that story, there's 2 political action committees founded by Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's top aide funneled over $1 million in political donations into 2 of his own private companies, according to a complaint filed with the Federal Election Commission on Monday. So the 2 PACs, because I dug into this a little bit, the 2 PACs are Saikat Chakrabarti is her campaign manager, was her campaign manager, is now chief of staff. Okay. Saikat Chakrabarti started Justice Democrats, which was, when it began, Cenk Uygur and some other dude from the Young Turks.
Okay.
They started this PAC. Then Saikat starts another PAC called Brand New Congress, PAC. And then what happens is Cenk Uygur and the other dude from the Young Turks get pushed out of Justice Democrats after these unfortunate, according to the left, sexist writings of Cenk's surface. So now Saikat has control of both of these PACs. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is named as a governor or some such thing on one of the 2. I believe it's Justice Democrats. So the problem here with all of this is that PACs are limited to a $5,000 per candidate that they're allowed to give. Mm-hmm. So this is what I think is going on here. And I think what's happening is they were getting donations into these PACs, and then they wanted to be spending more than the allowable amount on these candidates. So the way they do that is Saikat Chakrabarti, which has got to be my new favorite political name. He starts an LLC called Brand New Congress LLC. So the money comes into the PAC, and then it goes to the LLC. And then the LLC doesn't have to report anything. And on the FEC filings put in by the PAC, they just say they're paying the LLC for strategic consulting.
Well, let me ask you this question. And again, they've done what they can to make campaign finance laws really complicated. But if I get say I'm a candidate who is running in a House race, am I not supposed to document big donations and file it to where people can look up who's donating to my campaign? So say if this new Congress, is it named New Congress LLC?
Brand New Congress, yeah. Let's just call them LLC and PAC, because otherwise it gets confusing, because they have the same damn name. Okay,
so say I am running in a district in the House, and I get a $5,000 donation from a PAC, and then I get a $5,000 donation from this LLC. Don't I have to document somewhere that I got a $5,000 donation from that LLC?
The LLC is not giving them donations. The LLC is providing services to them.
Okay. So from my PAC, I give a bunch of money to this LLC, and then this LLC will in turn maybe do some sort of campaign work for my campaign in this House district, and that doesn't have to be documented.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so it's a
interesting.
good way to hide all this money.
Nobody's going to get in trouble for this.
I don't know. They've got now 2 different FEC complaints. This is one of them. So she continues, the cash transfers from the PACs overseen by Shy Cat Chakrabarty, the freshman socialist Democrat chief of staff, run counter to her pledges to increase transparency and reduce the influence of dark money in politics. Chakrabarty's companies, because he also had brand new brand new campaign. So he had 2 LLCs at the end of it. Nobody can figure out if brand new campaign actually exists or not on paper. There's no filing for it to establish it as an LLC. So Chakrabarty's companies appear to have been set up for the sole purpose of obscuring how the political donations were used. So
That's impossible because they're all about transparency. Tracy.
I know, right? I know. She went viral with this whole clip talking about this exact kind of dealing, and here she is. I don't think she had any idea that this stuff was going on. I think this Shy Cat dude, he's pretty damn smart.
Well, even if she did know what was going on, does know what's going on now, it's okay because they're morally right, Tracy.
Yeah,
so that's all that matters. They may be bending the rules, but their cause is just, so it's okay when they bend the rules.
Right.
That's fine.
Especially when it comes to PACs, because we know they love to talk about the dark money.
Right. Well, listen, when you are in a battle to save the planet, Tracy,
yes.
You're making an omelet, you're going to crack some eggs.
I know. But I would be interested to see. Let me continue with this for a second here. So the arrangement skirted reporting requirements and may have violated the $5,000 limit on contributions from federal PACs to candidates, according to the complaint, which was filed by the National Legal and Policy Center, a government watchdog group. So here's the deal. This brand new Congress PAC and the Justice Democrats, they kind of had this whole deal where they were looking to draft people to run for Congress. They wanted to find progressives that fit their little mold of what they wanted and then run them. So Chakrabarty's on TV talking about this back in 2016, I think. He worked on the Bernie campaign, knew what it took to run a big campaign, and thought, okay, I want to build something which he called a campaign in a box. Because people that are coming in for the first time don't really know what they're doing, don't have that whole thing set up. So we'll just build that apparatus, and they'll park that in the LLC. And not only did they park that in the LLC, but everybody that worked for Justice Democrats, they parked their butts in the LLC. So everybody that was getting paid by Justice Democrats got paid through the LLC. This is so convoluted and ridiculous that it's kind of hard to follow. So I read the FEC complaint, and then I started digging into all this other stuff. And, Justice Democrats had even go out on their website and explain, like, why are you seeing all of our money going out to Brand New Congress LLC? Well, that's because we put all our staff over there and then paid them that way. So they ended up running 11 different candidates. This is Brand New Congress. They had 11 or 12. Ocasio-Cortez is the only one who won. So the question now becomes, of the money that they raised that got then funneled through the LLC, how much of that was directed at her campaign specifically? Because remember, they can't give her more than $5,000, and that's cash or in kind. Services, anything like that amounting to that amount of money. That's the limit. And so my thinking becomes, either they're pocketing this cash themselves and just paying themselves salaries, which Shy Cat says he didn't take any salary whatsoever, and he's some tech guy that apparently has enough money that he doesn't need any more money. Or were they using that as a conduit to funnel money to do a whole bunch of stuff for her? Put on events, do door knocking, do all kinds of campaign stuff. They produced that campaign video of hers that went viral or whatever, and then to the detriment of all the other candidates that they had put forward. So I don't think that she's going to get off on this all that easily. And there's some serious stuff going on, especially because now he is her chief of staff. So they did this other fun thing, which I didn't know about. She put a salary cap on her office.
Yeah.
And a salary floor. So nobody's going to earn less than $50,000 that works for her, but also nobody's going to earn more than, I believe it's $80,000. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the fun thing about that. If you're a staffer and you earn, I think it's 160 or more, or maybe it's 120. I don't remember what it is, but it's more than 80. If you earn that, then you have to disclose all your financials. So now she just put this little Shy Cat's Chakrabarty. He doesn't have to report any of his financials.
There you go. And if I'm funneling money to this LLC and they're doing campaign work for me, but they aren't billing my campaign for it, how do I know?
Well, they did make one payment, I believe, from her campaign to the LLC. They were paying them directly as well.
But you just said they can't do any more than $5,000 worth of services for the campaign as well.
No, the LLC can. The LLC can do as much as they want. It's the PAC.
Okay.
So you get to think about it. The PAC can only give each candidate $5,000, and that's either cash or services.
The LLC could, in theory, give a campaign $500,000 worth of services, and there's nothing illegal about that.
Right.
Wow. I'm telling you, Democrat privilege. Nothing is going to come out as other than maybe they'll be ordered to stop. But
well, it depends on how much she continues to piss off the rest of her party, is what I think.
That's true. I mean, I can almost guarantee that someone is going to primary her, and it'll probably be someone secretly being supported by Nancy Pelosi and other heavy hitters in the Democratic Party if she continues to be a thorn in their side.
Well, in this whole movement by this Justice Democrats group and the Brand New Congress LLC, their entire mission is to target Democrats and take them out. I watched video of Jank talking about this is what we're going to do. We're going to primary all of them. So they won one race for sure with her, with Ocasio-Cortez. And now there are a couple others that are backed by the Justice Democrats. So like Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib and a couple other people, they're in there. So all said and done, between those two groups, I think they have 7 members of Congress right now. So how long are they going to do the same thing in 2020? How long until they've taken over the Democrat Party? So at some point, the Democrats are going to become wise to this, and what are they going to do?
Well, they've already taken over the messaging of the Democratic Party.
Yep. But they want actual seats.
These are scary times.
Yeah.
Because I've got a friend who just followed me on Twitter, just got on Twitter. One of my friends who is a leftist who used to be really close friends in our group. We were all friends, and most of them were lefties, and now they've kind of separated themselves from me because I didn't vote for Hillary in 2016. And as we all know, Trump is new Hitler. So
do you miss them?
Yeah, I actually do. I think it's really sad that I've got a group of friends who I didn't give two shits about their politics. We were friends. And yeah, I knew what they believed in. Some of them were big Bernie Sanders supporters. And, so I think their politics it's disgusting. But I didn't hold that against them because we were friends. Well, now, it was all fun and games for 8 years when Barack Obama was president of the United States. And it was fine that we're friends. But now the new Hitler is in office. I can't be associated with because I may have voted for new Hitler, according to these people. Previously, Mitt Romney was new Hitler, and before that, John McCain was new Hitler. But this guy, he's really new Hitler. He's in office now.
All right, so they got on Twitter now?
Yeah, and following the AOC, one of only 30 people that she's following on Twitter: Barack Obama, Bernie Sanders, and the AOC. These are likable lunatics.
Yeah.
and they make democratic socialism likable because, oh, look at the AOC, wasn't that a fun video she did, the Breakfast Club parody?
Just
Oh, I bet she's
dancing.
fun to go. Yeah, she dances. I bet she'd be fun to go have a drink with. And she's just like me. She's young. I can relate to her. Oh, okay. You're gonna vote for someone based on that? That's
Yes, they are.
scary. But that's where we are. And so it frightens me that this party. I want to be able to vote for a Democrat. And there was a time I could vote for a Democrat. But if this is what the Democratic Party stands for, this Green New Deal. A crippling wealth tax that is the idea that you could give the federal government that kind of power, just say, I'm going to take 40% of your shit as you're leaving.
Well, and go through all of your assets on a yearly basis.
Yes.
Dispatch a whole bunch of IRS agents that now have master's degrees in art history and such that can price things like this.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
You got lefties in the state of New York that are perfectly fine with going through social media accounts to figure out where you are, to determine whether or not you should pay a residency tax in the state of New York. Where's this all heading? And this is becoming more and more commonplace in the Democratic Party, and I can't support any of this shit. And what's even more disgusting to me is the Republicans can't seem to push back on any of this effectively. They just a lot of times Republicans just assume, oh, people won't go for that. Look at these nut jobs. I'll just yell socialism 3 times and that'll scare people off. You have to have an effective pushback against this stuff because there are too many kids that are graduating from college, with $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 worth of student loan debt, and you've got a major political party saying, well, it's really not your fault. This is just the way the system is, and we need to reform the system, and your college debt should be paid off. And you know what? Not only should your college debt be paid off, all college should be free. We'll just go back to the money tree, and we'll pluck some money off of the tree, and then everything will be free. And you got kids that are 21, 22 years old buying this horse shit. Yeah. It should be it's perfectly fair for people in previous generations who paid for their own college or paid off their own student loans. Their tax money should go to pay off your student loan and should pay for your college. That's fair.
Well, and what about people that never went to college? They've got to pay for you to go to college now? How is that fair?
It's not.
No, and that's the argument that I hope you'll hear. All of this stuff is immoral. This idea that you don't own yourself or your stuff or anything that you've earned, that doesn't belong to you, according to them. They don't believe in private property. I don't know why we can't make that argument. That's why they like to say, oh, it's democratic socialism. So, okay, so you just need 51% of the vote to take away everybody's property?
Yes, that's how they look at it. And they feel like they're better people for doing that. Going to the ballot box, not volunteering in their community to try to make it a better place. Instead, I'm just going every 2 to 4 years to vote for people who will take more of your shit.
Yeah, that's their community service. I told you, I've had that feeling for years, seeing like rich suburban Philadelphia housewives that are all gung-ho about the Democrat Party, and it just clicked in my head one day. I'm like, oh, they think this is their community service. God forbid they actually go and do anything in the community, go into the city and try to make a difference. No, they can just show up and vote Democrat every 2 years and feel really good about themselves because they trust those politicians to take care of the people.
I feel like we've gone from the you didn't build that crowd from the Barack Obama area to you don't need that shit crowd we have now. I got into an argument with my friends that I'm talking about now a couple of years ago with the whole Bernie thing, and they were talking about how people who have second and third homes, when they die, the government should just be able to take 100% of that property because it's not their kids, it was their property. And at the time, I'm thinking, well, Bernie has 3 homes?
I never remember.
I can't keep track of Bernie Sanders' real estate holdings, but to me, how dangerous is this line of thinking that you want government to be so powerful that when you die, they should be able to confiscate your property? For if I put 65 hours a week into what I do between my daily gig and then the podcasts I'm on, plus I'm up to like 5 or 6 podcasts that I produce. There's some sacrifice. I got kids, and you sacrifice your time to build a career, build a business. Say this becomes really successful, and I build some sort of media company out of this, and I'm fortunate enough because I manage it properly and I put out good content that I become a millionaire several times over. My family is sacrificed by me not being around, by me, investing the time into building a business like this. And then they're supposed to be told that the sacrifices that were made, the time when dad wasn't around to do some of the things that he would have liked to have done, but he had to run the business, that their sacrifice shouldn't be rewarded when dad passes away. That no, you weren't a part of that. That was dad. So the government should be able to swoop in and just swipe that property. It's crazy. But again, how much of this sells? Because there are people out there that aren't willing to put in that kind of work, 60, 70 hours a week, starting their own business, and just feel like, oh, well, you know what, yeah, sure, you're a self-made person who built a business like that, but you probably earned a lot of that money on the backs of your workers who aren't, probably didn't make a living wage, so you deserve to have all of that wealth confiscated. What a load of horse shit.
We just have to wonder if any of these people have ever worked. That's what I don't get. Do they not work, and do they not pay taxes and not think, well, this isn't fair, that here's my check and this amount is taken out of it and it's going off to pay for things that I don't agree with? Like, I thought maybe in the Trump era we could get to the point where people would say, I'm going to start taking the maximum number of deductions and keeping the highest amount in my check, so I'm not funding the Trump government. I remember there was some talk about that at one point, and we were getting excited. Like, oh my God, is there actually going to be a tax revolt where Democrats are going to refuse to pay for Trump Hitlers? Seriously, you're giving money directly to this administration who you loathe. You're helping subsidize that. Are you not furious? Right. You're paying for those. You're paying for those cages. You're paying for the guards that are then tending to those children that are in the cages. And I don't know if you saw the report that came out maybe 2 weeks ago or something like this about the number of sexual assaults that have taken place in those facilities, some of them perpetrated by the people that are guarding them.
Oh, gross.
Of course. Well, I don't know why it didn't get as much attention as I thought it would when I first saw it. But I dug into it a little bit because the first headline was like, 5,000 or something of these assault incidents have happened at different border facilities, or whatever we call them, detention facilities, or something like this. And so I opened it up. I think it was an Axios story, and I'm reading the data tables that were provided by the government. Well, you come to find out that something like 70% of them were committed by other minors that are being held in the detention centers. So I was like, oh, they're not sending their best. Remember that old chestnut? Well, here's the proof right here. And it's so grotesque. Like, I don't want any of that stuff going on. I'm not saying, for those of you who have difficulty understanding humor versus reality, we're not laughing that a bunch of kids are getting, sexually abused at these.
I have the latest round of you deserve to have suffer a long, painful death.
I'm sure that I will, so you can look forward to that someday. But the idea being is that our money is being confiscated from us and then used to pay for all this stuff that we don't like. So at a certain point, is everybody going to say enough of this? It doesn't seem like it. The left wants to steal more and more and more. But they're going to pay for this stuff that's really good stuff. That's all it'll go to if they're in charge.
Right. We're an hour and a half in, Tracy.
I know. We got to shut up.
Okay, well, you can find the Enough Already podcast on Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn. Did I mention TuneIn?
No.
No, TuneIn at BitChute. And now we are doing a video version of this over at YouTube. And are we uploading the video to BitChute as well?
Yes.
Okay, well, you can find the video version of this podcast on BitChute as well. And, of course, you can catch all of our stuff over at our website, enoughalready.us, and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/enoughalreadypodcast. Or is Enough Already Radio? I always get that confused.
Yeah. You'll find us if you search. Yeah.
Enough Already podcast on Facebook. Just do a search. You'll find us. You'll see our little signs. Say Enough Already.us, and I'm holding up a fake sign right now on the camera. So, final thoughts?
No, I'm good. If I start talking again, we're going to get on another rant.
All right. She's Tracy. I'm Fingers. We'll be back next week with an all new Enough Already.